Guests, teachers, and students. At Shirakati Lyceum, it is our cherished tradition to begin Friday student assemblies with the performance of our school anthem, a unifying melody that embodies our shared values, aspirations, and school spirit. Today's assembly is very special as we gather here to welcome a delegation from Uruguay, a nation that holds a unique and inspiring place in history of Armenia and in our hearts.
Uruguay was among the first countries to officially recognize the Armenian genocide in 1965. This recognition stands as a testament to their commitment to human rights, justice, and historical truth.
It is our honor to host this delegation, which includes Professor Javier Polazan, Director of Educational Affairs from AGBU Uruguay, Professor Aldo Rodriguez, Director of Language Policies from the National Administration of Public Education in Uruguay, and Romina Fajardo, a high school student and winner of an essay competition on the Armenian genocide, and others.
We are also honored to have all of you here as we embark on a meaningful discussion about the Armenian genocide, the universal lessons of genocide, and the critical importance of prevention.
To officially welcome our guests, we now invite our high school principal, Mrs. Anna Stepanyan, to the stage.
Dear honored guests, dear students, dear colleagues, it's a great privilege to welcome you all to our school, Shirakati Lyceum, on this memorable occasion. Thank you for traveling all the way from Uruguay to be with us today. This visit holds special significance for us. It brings together education, history, and pursuit of justice. We are proud to host Romina Fajardo, the winner of the essay contest on the theme of genocide, who has given voice to truth and demonstrated courage through her work. Romina, your dedication and preserving memory and delving into the depths of the history is an aspiration for all of us. We also warmly welcome the individuals who have supported and guided you on this journey. Your grandmother, Mrs. Martha Rego, who has undoubtedly been a source of encouragement. Your teacher and mentor, Mrs. Mary Corliss, hello, whose guidance played a crucial role in your achievements, as well as esteemed figures from Uruguay, Professor Javier Polatian, hello, Director of Educational Affairs from AGBU Uruguay, and Professor Aldo Rodriguez, hello, Director of Language Policies from the National Administration and Public Education of Uruguay. Welcome. Your visit offers an invaluable opportunity not only to discuss the importance of history, but also to create a platform for strengthening these cultural and educational ties between our two countries. We firmly believe that education is the most powerful tool for passing on values, fostering mutual understanding, and ensuring peace for future generations. Thank you for honoring us with your presence, and we hope today we will fill with meaningful exchanges and unforgettable memories. We wish you a pleasant and enriching time here at Shirakazu Lyceum. Once again, welcome and thank you.
Thank you, esteemed Mrs. Stepanyan, for your warm words. As mentioned, Uruguay holds a special place in the hearts of Armenians worldwide. It was the first nation to officially recognize the Armenian genocide on April 20th of 1965, setting an example for others to follow.
Uruguay and Armenia share strong ties. Uruguay is home to a vibrant Armenian community, and through cultural and diplomatic efforts, the relationship between our nations continues to flourish.
Today we will hear more about these bonds and discuss the broader lessons of genocide, starting with a presentation by Romina Fajardo, the winner of the essay competition in Uruguay on the Armenian genocide. Please welcome Romina.
Well, actually, before we begin with Romina's presentation, on behalf of the representatives from Uruguay, I would like to thank the Shirakazi Lyceum for this warm welcome, and I hope, and we hope, that you enjoy Romina's presentation and Mari's presentation. This is going to be, we are going to do it in this way. Romina and Mari are going to speak in Spanish, and I'll be translating into English, okay? So bear in mind that we are going to be stopping, so you can reflect upon all the different concepts that they are going to share with you. Thank you. So with me, today we have Romina Fajardo. You were already introduced to Romina. Romina is a student from Montevideo in Uruguay. Montevideo is the capital city from Uruguay. And Mari Fajardo is a history teacher from Montevideo as well. And she was Romina's history teacher, but also her tutor during the contest.
Bueno, lo que yo quiero hacer, primero que nada, además de agradecer que nos estén recibiendo, es contarles en relación a qué institución y cómo hemos trabajado con Romina en este proceso que lleva a que haya ganado este premio y que estemos aquí hoy presentándonos.
So apart from saying thank you to all of you, she wants to share some of the ideas about where they are coming from and about the process that Romina and Mari went through in order to be here today.
Nosotras pertenecemos a un liceo público, un liceo estatal, que es el Instituto Alfredo Vázquez Acevedo, IABA, que es un liceo histórico en Montevideo, Uruguay, fundado en 1911, como el primer preparatorio para la universidad público para hombres y mujeres.
So they both belong to high school number 35 called IABA. IABA is an acronym meaning Institute Alfredo Vázquez Acevedo, as it's there, and it was founded at the beginning of the 20th century in order to prepare men and women to access university and to be prepared for university.
Desde su fundación, este liceo pretende abrir las puertas para la educación desde la concepción de que con la educación de la población se puede lograr el crecimiento y el progreso del país.
Since the beginning, since the opening, the aim of this institution, which is a state, public, free of charge institution, the aim is to give the opportunity for all of them to be educated.
Y lo que hemos trabajado junto a Romina tiene que ver también con una tradición de la enseñanza en el sentido de trabajar desde lugares de libertad, de participación, de fomentar la libertad de pensamiento.
And something that they have worked together with Romina is this idea of freedom, freedom of thinking, and that is part of the tradition, not only of the school, but also a tradition of education in general in Uruguay.
Bien, generar en definitiva espacios para que el aprendizaje pueda darse en forma crítica.
So in a way, generate spaces, room, so education can be critical, so you can be critical toward what you are learning.
Pero como también lo que nosotros los profesores pensamos incide en cómo se construye la enseñanza, quisiera contarles un poco cuáles son mis concepciones respecto de la enseñanza.
But since what teachers believe also influences the students, she wants to tell you about her ideas, about her philosophy of teaching.
Entiendo que para poder enseñar es fundamental poder construir lazos, encontrarnos con el deseo de aprender de nuestros estudiantes.
So in order to learn, it's important to find a way to interact with the interests of the students and to find the interests of the students and somehow connect with that interest of the students.
Y a la vez la enseñanza cobra sentido cuando podemos generar espacios de autoría, de alegría creadora frente al conocimiento.
And learning and education becomes important when the students can create, but create with joy and become authors of what they create.
Que la enseñanza pueda llegar a ser transformadora de sí mismo, pero también ubicarnos como sujetos históricos, o sea, transformadores de la sociedad.
So in a way, build our personality, build our identity, but also through history, also be part of how we can transform and interact with society.
En ese sentido, concibo la enseñanza desde el punto de vista ético como aquella que pueda estar atravesada por el abordaje de los derechos humanos como condición inherente a la condición, a las personas.
So in this way, she conceives history and she conceives teaching from an ethical perspective. And in this ethical perspective, it's important to consider human rights, because human rights are an inherent part of the human being.
Y desde allí entonces trabajamos todo lo que tiene que ver con los procesos de construcción de derechos humanos, de reconocimiento de esos derechos, pero también de violaciones de derechos.
So in this perspective, they work with how human rights are recognized, but also all the different processes in which human rights are violated.
Enseñar desde el punto de vista ético nos exige a los docentes ni caer en fundamentalismo ni en escepticismo, sino que tenemos que tener un compromiso con el presente.
Teaching with this ethical perspective makes us teacher to work not being skeptical about what we are saying and not being fundamentalist, but on the other hand being critical about the time.
Entonces, empiezo mis cursos preguntando, y así lo empezamos este año con Romina, ¿qué nos aporta el conocimiento disciplinar, en este caso el conocimiento de la historia, para entender este presente en el que vivimos?
So every year she starts the course, the history course, asking the students and asking herself what history contributes to understanding the present that we are having now.
Intenté colocar algunos aspectos que tienen que ver con la violación de derechos humanos en el presente, a la década del 90, a los 2000 y hacia el hoy, en estas fotografías, y allí vemos muros que caen, muros que se construyen, desplazamientos forzados, terrorismo de Estado.
So she wanted to portray in the pictures that you have in the slide some of the present, some of the things that are happening in the present, and you can see displacement, you can see terrorism, you can see state terrorism, you can see massacres, you can see different things, and you can see walls that are torn down and walls that are constructed.
¿Y en qué sentido la historiografía nos aporta para poder vivir este presente?
And in what way can history help us understand this present?
Desde allí entiendo que lo que nos aporta son interpretaciones, conceptos, periodizaciones que nos permiten comprender el pasado.
So history gives us the possibility to understand different periods, different concepts, different ideas from the past to understand the present.
Pero a su vez también, y a partir de ese proceso, nos permite ubicarnos como sujetos históricos.
And through this process we can situate as historical beings.
Y desde allí entonces poder desarrollar tanto argumentación como empatía con estas personas y pueblos a los que estudiamos.
And in this way we can elaborate on arguments, but also we can develop empathy for those populations, for those civilizations that we are studying.
En ese sentido, cuando Romina me invita a participar en este proyecto sobre el genocidio armenio, y vuelvo a decir, es Romina la que me invita, o sea, ya cuento con su deseo de acercarse a este tema.
So when Romina invited her to participate in this contest, and she wants to emphasize that it was Romina the one who invited her to participate in this competition, in this contest, she already got the interest of Romina in studying and participating in this, in the study of this topic.
Bueno, desde allí iniciamos entonces un proceso que nos lleva tiempo y que está cargado de múltiples acciones de enseñanza que voy desplegando, pero que a la vez vamos realizando juntas en este proceso de enseñanzas y aprendizaje.
So this process of studying about the Armenian genocide gave them extra time to study, to read, to discuss, and it was a process that helped them create a dialogue between them about this particular topic.
Bueno, desde la historiografía, pero también buscando a través de lo que es la legislación actual, buscando la prensa de época en las bibliotecas, acercándonos a los trabajos de las memorias y a los testimonios concretamente, el cine, la literatura, o sea, se despliega una batería de herramientas desde donde poder trabajar e inclusive también encuestas.
They did not only study history, but also they went to the libraries in order to see the newspapers from the time. They also read the memoirs from people who survived the genocide, and they were also doing or conducting some surveys on the topic.
Bien, en ese proceso de trabajo juntas tuvimos algunos encuentros que nos sirvieron para poder dialogar. Es importante, además de hacer todas esas búsquedas, después sentarnos y conversar al respecto, hacernos preguntas, desplegar otras actividades, y allí se va construyendo en definitiva el sustento de lo que Romina va a terminar diciendo en ese ensayo.
Through the process, they had the opportunity to get together, to meet, and to ask themselves questions, to have dialogues, to have discussions, and that helped Romina in the process of sustaining and creating and writing the essay.
Bien, yo les agradezco y los invito entonces a escuchar a Romina.
So she invites you to listen to Romina.
Buenas tardes, primero quería agradecerles por la calidad de bienvenida que me dieron.
First of all, good morning, and thanks very much for the warm welcome that you have given us.
Lo que yo les voy a hablar es del genocidio armenio, el papel fundamental que tuvo Uruguay en el reconocimiento del mismo.
I'm going to talk about the Armenian genocide and the important role that Uruguay had in the recognition of it.
Cuando comencé a sumergirme en la lectura del tema, me encontré con que Uruguay fue el primer país en el mundo a reconocer el genocidio armenio.
When I started reading about the topic, I realized that Uruguay was the first country in the world to recognize the Armenian genocide.
En 1965, por medio de una ley, se declara el 24 de abril el Día de Recordación de Mártires Armenios.
Through a law in 1965, it was the first declaration of the commemoration of the Armenian martyrs in Uruguay.
Pero el problema que encontré es que en esa ley no se nombra la palabra genocidio.
But something that she realized when she was reading the law is that the word genocide was not part of the text of the law.
En 2004 se reafirma este reconocimiento, pero tampoco se nombra la palabra genocidio.
In 2004, there is another law that also recognizes the Armenian genocide, but again, the word genocide was not part of the text of the law.
Pero antes de entrar en ello, me gustaría aclararles que yo conocía la palabra genocidio, pero no sabía quiénes eran los armenios.
But before going into the analysis and telling you about the essay, she wanted to tell you, because she didn't know who the Armenians were. So the first thing she did was an analysis of what the Armenians were. Sorry, am I speaking too fast in English? Because I can see that there are some people maybe translating or talking. Okay, thank you.
Y es crucial poner en palabras de qué estamos hablando cuando hablamos de un pueblo y el sentido de la historia.
So she did that because it was important to realize when we are talking about one particular people, like in this case the Armenians, to know about them and to know about their history.
Y entonces me encontré con que la región conocida como Mesopotamia han habitado los armenios de tiempos remotos.
So she realized that in the area called Mesopotamia, the Armenians lived for a long, long, long time.
Pero debido a que es una zona estratégica entre Europa y Asia, ha sido disputada y invadida por diversos pueblos conquistadores.
So because of the location of the Mesopotamia, Armenia has been the target for several invasions, displacements, and also people fighting for those territories.
Y es durante el dominio del Imperio Turco Otomano que este pueblo se vio azotado por una de las crueldades más inhumanas, un genocidio.
So during the Ottoman Empire, it was when these people were the target of this cruel event, of this massacre that was carried out by the Ottoman Turkish Empire.
Según la ONU, un genocidio es la negación de derecho de existencia a un grupo humano por entero, y tal negación conmueve la condición humana y ocasiona una gran pérdida en el aspecto cultural.
So according to the United Nations, as you can see in the slide there, a genocide is the negation to some groups to have the human right to exist, but not only the people, but also the culture.
Y al momento de adentrarme en este tema me encontré con realidades y términos muy dolorosos, como las masacres, las exportaciones.
So when she started reading about the genocide and this Armenian genocide, she found out that there were some terms that were very painful terms, like for example the term massacre or the term displacement or deportation.
Pero creo que lo más importante y doloroso fue encontrarme con un Estado con la intención de exterminar un pueblo, el pueblo armenio.
But the most important idea that she found, and the most striking idea she found, was that there was a systematic plan of one country to exterminate another one, to exterminate the Armenians.
Y por eso crea un plan que es sistemático y meticuloso que no solo apunta a la persona física, sino también a la identidad armenia.
So, because of this, the Ottoman Empire creates a systematic and meticulous plan that it does not only affect the people, it does not only affect the Armenians, but also affects the Armenian culture.
Es por eso que también tenemos que entender el término tan esencial que es el genocidio cultural. Es aquella destrucción a construcciones que reflejan la cultura armenia, pero también la producción del lenguaje.
So, because of this, we have to understand the concept of cultural genocide, in which they are not only the people exterminated, but also anything that remembers the culture of those people, like this complete destruction of the monuments and also the complete extermination of the language.
Al finalizar un ensayo, todavía no entiendo cuestiones políticas que podrían explicar la ausencia de la palabra genocidio.
So at the end of when I finalized the essay, I still don't understand some political things, and especially why Uruguay did not include the word genocide in the law of 1965 and in the law of 2004.
Y para evitar este limbo entre reconocimiento y silencio se debe atender esta decisión. Y me alegra saber que así fue en mayo de este año.
So to address this gap in the law, it's important to see why and to address the fact that the word genocide was not included in the law. And she's very happy to say that this year, in May 2024, Uruguay passed a third law regarding the Armenian genocide, but the difference is that this year the word genocide was actually included in the text of the law.
Pero igualmente lo importante es que por casi 60 años se mantuvo este reconocimiento en nuestro país sin nombrar la palabra genocidio.
But something striking is that for over 60 years, the world recognized Uruguay as the first country recognizing the Armenian genocide, but the word genocide was not part of the law.
Dicho esto, ahora sí voy a comenzar a ahondar en los argumentos que desarrollan largo en el ensayo que los están quedando como preguntas.
So now she's going to go deeper into the different arguments that she developed in the essay, and she's going to state the different arguments in the form of a question.
La primera de ellas es por qué Uruguay reconoce el genocidio armenio en 1965.
So the first question, as you can see in the slides, is why did Uruguay recognize the Armenian genocide in 1965?
Y para responder a esto tenemos que tener claro el concepto de diáspora, porque aquellos armenios que lograron sobrevivir o escaparon migraron a diversas partes del mundo.
So one of the concepts that we need to consider in order to answer the question is the concept of diaspora, because all the Armenians who survived the Armenian genocide went to different countries in order to live in those countries, and they created the Armenian diaspora.
Uruguay, mi país, fue uno de los grandes receptores de estos armenios.
Uruguay, my country, our country, was one of the countries that received many Armenians while the Armenian genocide.
Pero yo creo que lo importante también es que se tome un momento para pensar lo impactante y doloroso que debe ser tener que irte de tu país, dejar a tu familia y empezar desde cero en una nueva sociedad.
So, but she also wants to pose the question on you and ask you to reflect on how difficult it could be for a person to leave everything, to leave their country, to leave their family, to leave everything and move to another country and start from scratch, start from zero, in a different country that is not close to your reality.
A esto se enfrentan los armenios y es por eso que realizan un doble trabajo. De por un lado mantener esa identidad armenia que querían quitarles y destruirla, y por otro lado construir una pertenencia a la sociedad nueva en la que se encontraban.
So that is what happened to the Armenians during the genocide. On the one side, they had to maintain, they had to keep their identity, and they had to preserve their identity. But on the other hand, they had to adapt to a new country, to a hosting country, the country in which they conform the diaspora.
Y es en este momento que las artes, como el cine y el canto, toman una fuerte importancia para construir memoria y mantener esa identidad. Pero también lo hace la iglesia para construir una comunidad.
So, at this particular moment, we have to pay attention to the arts and the importance of the arts, because through the arts, through music, through literature, is one way to construct the Armenian identity, and in this way, and in another way, they could speak the language that the oppressors wanted to exterminate.
Por ejemplo, tenemos que el cura era quien iba a las casas de familias para ayudarlas, pero también personas que ni siquiera eran creyentes asistían a las reuniones luego de la iglesia para poder tener ese momento de encuentro.
Also, we need to pay attention to the importance of religion at this moment, because the priest was the one who went to the Armenian homes and helped them, but also at the end of the services, at the end of the Mass, many people stayed and sang and talked in order to preserve the language and to preserve their customs.
En esta reunión también vemos una gran importancia del canto porque puede contar una historia, mantener una memoria, pero también se utiliza ese lenguaje que nos querían contar.
So, as we were mentioning before, the songs are very useful because in a way they preserve the customs, they preserve the traditions, they preserve the language that wanted to be exterminated, and in a way they can build memory, they can build memoirs of what happened during the... However, the Armenian community in Uruguay was fractured due to mainly to two reasons. The first reason was political reasons, and the second thing is due to the places they were coming from.
Y fueron los jóvenes armenios en los años 60 que rompen estas barreras y crean la Mesa Coordinadora de Organizaciones Juveniles Armenias de Uruguay.
So, at that moment in the 60s, there were the young Armenians, the one who overcome those barriers and wanted to find the unity within the community and wanted to fight for this recognition of the Armenian genocide.
Porque ellos fueron quienes, al mirar las generaciones pasadas, notaron ese dolor profundo de largo tiempo atrás y del que no hablaban.
So, those youngsters were the ones who recognized in the elders this pain that was silent, that nobody talked about the pain they had, but they were the ones who recognized that pain, and because of this they wanted the genocide to be recognized.
Y es por eso que comienzan aquí un largo proceso de lucha por el reconocimiento, pero también por la unidad de la comunidad armenia.
So after all this, they start with a process in which they start fighting for the unity of the Armenian community, but also to raise awareness about this event, the Armenian genocide, not only in Uruguay, but also in the international community.
Y finalmente, junto con el parlamentario Enrique Martínez Moreno, logra la creación de la primera ley en el mundo que reconoce el genocidio armenio, pero sin nombrar la palabra genocidio.
So, together with the senator and the representative Enrique Martínez Moreno, they created a bill and they passed the first law in Uruguay in 1965 in which the Armenian genocide is recognized but without mentioning the word genocide in the law.
También lleva a que el 24 de abril pase de ser un día de luto a un día de lucha y que el mes de octubre pase a ser el mes de la cultura, donde toma una fuerte importancia las artes.
So, after the law, the 24th of April turns from being a day of mourning, a day of mourning into a day of fight, and at the same time, the month of October becomes the month of the Armenian culture, and the arts play a very important role in that.
Y es por eso que quiero compartirles una estrofa, una canción que siento que refleja este ideal de lucha.
So she's going to share a stanza from a song. She's going to read it in Spanish, except for the last line that she's going to read it in Armenian. And I'm not going to translate it because when you listen to the last stanza, you will know what it talks about.
Nos callaremos ahora, hermanos, nos callaremos cuando nuestro enemigo ha puesto su mortal espada sobre nuestro pecho, sin escuchar nuestro llanto y nuestro lamento. Decid, hermanos armenios, ¿qué hemos de hacer? ¿Gimiel de hemos de callar?
So basically, the stanza of these songs talks about the idea that we shouldn't be silent about this type of events, and we should shout them out in order to tell the world what happened. Okay?
Pero también me gustaría resaltar que en Uruguay encontramos una voluntad política para atender a ese llamado por el reconocimiento.
She also wants to highlight that in Uruguay, we also found a political willingness to legislate on this topic. And through the legislation of this topic is that we have the law of 1965.
Y es por eso que me pregunto qué pasa con el resto de los países. Y eso me lleva a mi segunda pregunta. ¿Por qué aún no todos los países y no toda la comunidad internacional reconoce aún el genocidio armenio?
So that all those events led us to the second question, and is why is that not all the countries in the world have already recognized the Armenian genocide?
Para responder a esto, además de entender todos los términos que hablamos anteriormente, tenemos que entender el término tan esencial que es el negacionismo.
So in order to answer this question, there is another concept that we need to consider, that is the concept of negationism.
Es aquella actitud de negar realidades o hechos históricos que sean relevantes. En este caso, el genocidio armenio.
So negationism is the attitude to negate or evade the idea that one event actually took place. In this case, that the Armenian genocide took place.
Pero es mucho más importante que solo negar, sino que también es reiterar el genocidio mismo.
And she believes that the negationism is more important than evading or negating, is a way of reviving the genocide.
Asimismo, es usual que bajo condiciones de guerra se desaten conductas que acostumbran a la humanidad a la violencia.
So, at the same time, it is very common that during war times, there are some behaviors, especially violent behaviors, that take place.
Por eso son tan peores torturas, las peores matanzas, los peores genocidios, como pasó con los armenios en la Primera Guerra Mundial, pero como continuó sucediendo durante todo el siglo XX hasta nuestra actualidad.
So, during those times, during the war times, it's very common to have events such as terrorism, violence, cruelty, and because of that, and this is what happened with the Armenians, but this is something also that has been happening until now.
El gobierno de Turquía aún no acepta la culpa que recae sobre él y se excusa diciendo que fueron actos de guerra, con acciones por parte de ambos bandos.
So the Turkish government does not recognize that their fault in this event, and they say that this was an event that was part of the war, and that both the Turkish and the Armenians were guilty about what happened.
Y es por eso que resalto que los estados tienen dos opciones, o por un lado reconocer el genocidio y luchar por el reconocimiento, o por otro ser parte de la gran construcción del negacionismo que lleva a cabo hasta el día de hoy.
So because of this, states have two possibilities. On the one side, they can recognize the genocide, and on the other side, they can be part of the construction of the negationism.
Y durante esta investigación me sorprendí más cuando encontré un artículo que refleja la vigencia del genocidio y el negacionismo.
So during this research that she conducted, she realized that the genocide was not something from the past, but it was something that it was still very current.
El 23 de abril de 2022 se inauguró la embajada de Turquía en Uruguay y el embajador turco realizó un gesto que se entiende como provocativo para la comunidad armenia que se manifestaba frente.
On the 23rd of April 2022, the Turkish embassy was opened in Uruguay. And at that moment, the Minister of International Affairs made a gesture that was offensive to the Armenians. And that was evidence of how the genocide is not something from the past, but is something that is still currently present.
Y por eso planteé mi tercera pregunta, que es ¿qué presente en el tema los uruguayos en la actualidad?
And after reading about this, she had the third question, or the third argument in her essay, that was, what is the role of the Armenian genocide among Uruguays at present or currently?
Para responder a esto tendría dos aspectos. Por un lado, las marcas de memoria en la ciudad y por otro, la educación.
In order to do this, she paid attention to two things. First of all, what we call the marks of memory, that are the different monuments and different buildings and things that represent the Armenians in the city, and on the other hand, education.
Sobre el primero, es importante mantener una narración constante que signifique cada objeto para que así no pierda su significado.
Relating to the first one, to the marks of the memory in the city, it's important to maintain a narrative in order to keep the meaning and to keep the definition and to keep the importance of that mark in the city.
Para atender ese mismo aspecto, realizó una encuesta a estudiantes y profesores de educación media para tener un breve acercamiento al tema.
So regarding education, she conducted a survey among teachers and students to know how much they knew about the topic.
Sobre los profesores, tenemos que hay una presencia en el tema, pero algunos aclaran que no lo dan a profundidad.
Regarding the teachers, they say that they know about the topic, but they don't know the topic in depth.
Sobre los estudiantes, ni siquiera hubo una gran voluntad de responder y no nos deja más que la pregunta por qué no se respondió la encuesta.
So regarding the students, they didn't even have the willingness to answer, and that leads us to another question. Why is that they didn't answer the question?
Pero yo creo que es importante resaltar que la educación es importante en sí misma porque la desinformación es la base del negacionismo. Entonces el conocimiento y el nombrar es la base de la lucha contra el negacionismo.
So education becomes very important because it's an important weapon to fight against negationism, because the basis of negationism is the lack of information. So if you are informed, you can fight against negationism.
En pocas palabras, entiendo que pueden haber tensiones diplomáticas que se relacionan con el peso de la palabra genocidio, pero eso a mí no me basta.
So she understands, in some words, she understands that there might be tensions related to why not including the word genocide, but this is not enough for her.
Y sé que el papel de Uruguay fue fundamental en el 65 y también en el 2004, pero aún falta un largo camino por recorrer para integrar ese reconocimiento en la educación y en la conciencia colectiva del país.
So she understands that the role of Uruguay in recognizing the genocide is very important, but there is still a long way to go in order to recognize the genocide worldwide.
Y por tanto, concluyo que se va a atender esta omisión y de nuevo digo que me alegra enterarme que así fue este año.
So for this reason, it is important to address the omission of the word genocide in the law, and she says again that she's very happy that in 2024 this omission was addressed, and now in the new law from 2024 the word genocide is explicitly written.
Sobre lo que yo me preguntaba era en qué lugar entre reconocimiento y silencio nos ubicamos y silenciar y no nombrar.
So the initial question for her was, in what position are we if not naming the genocide is a way of negating the genocide?
Durante este proceso me preguntaban mucho todas las personas si yo era armenia o tenía un lazo con la comunidad armenia, y no es así.
During the process, during the investigation, during the research, many people came to her and asked her, do you have any connection with the Armenian community? Are you Armenian yourself? But no, the answer to that question is no. She has no connections with the Armenian community and she is not Armenian.
Lo que yo entiendo es que esta lucha por el conocimiento y por la memoria tiene que ser de todos, porque es un tema de toda la humanidad, no solo de la comunidad armenia.
This fight for the recognition of the Armenian genocide is not something that should be related only to Armenians, but it should be related to all, because this is part of humanity, so everybody should be interested in recognizing the Armenian genocide.
Todo el mundo debería reconocer el genocidio armenio y esto debe dejar de ser una lucha única de la comunidad armenia. Yo tengo la esperanza de que así va a ser.
This should be something that everybody must be interested in researching and in understanding, and this shouldn't be anymore something that only the Armenian community should be talking about.
Y espero que el genocidio armenio deje de ser el genocidio olvidado y que dejaremos de estar entre el reconocimiento y el silencio del mundo.
And she hopes that the Armenian genocide is not a silent genocide, and that we are going to be and that we are not going to be between the recognition and the silence anymore.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
We would like to thank our esteemed guests for your insightful presentation. Now, actually, we would also like to note that we have found a video from our archives from the delegation of Uruguay from 1992.
Can, we still need to say a couple of more things.
Of course.
Okay.
Bien, realmente como docente, viendo a tantos adolescentes, me surge decir algunas cosas. Yo empecé hoy hablándoles de lo importante que era enseñar en el encuentro con el interés de los estudiantes, con la alegría por poder aprender. Yo entiendo que quizás pueden suceder dos cosas, entre que está calientito y está oscuro, que no se nos vuelve acogedor, o que quizás el abordaje de determinados temas históricos a veces es como nosotros decimos llover sobre mojado, no sé cómo lo vas a traducir.
Well, she...
I can close now.
Okay.
Can I close now?
Sure. So Mari wants to say that at the beginning of her speech, she was saying that one of the most important things when talking about learning is that there should be a dialogue and there should be a meeting of interest between what the teachers want and what the students want. And she doesn't know whether the place was too warm here or that some people wanted to avoid the topic because it was a very intense topic.
Bien. Digo, me parece realmente importante poder, como docentes, dejarles esto, nuestro presente. Quizás el tema del genocidio armenio para ustedes sea algo que ha estado todos los cursos desde que son chiquitos, pero sería bueno que poder pensarse como ciudadanos de la humanidad y poder pensar que hoy otros pueblos están viviendo algo similar a lo que vivieron sus antepasados y poder pensarlo desde allí también. Eso es lo que decía, pensarnos como sujetos históricos, pensarnos en el presente y con nuestro compromiso.
So Mari says that it is important that this type of presentations is not just about the Armenian genocide, but it's about our present because there are other genocides. And in addition to this, we need to think about citizens of global citizens and citizens of the future.
Since we are discussing the genocide, we would also like to pause and honor the artistic legacy of the Armenian people through music and highlight the story of Komitas, one of its most tragic cultural victims.
Komitas, born Solomon Solomonian, was a renowned composer, ethnomusicologist, and a vital preserver of Armenian musical heritage. In 1915, during the Armenian genocide, he was arrested along with hundreds of Armenian intellectuals. Although he was later released, the horrors he experienced inflicted irreversible psychological trauma, silencing one of the greatest voices of Armenian culture and history.
Komitas' music remains a testament to the resilience of the Armenian people and the treasure of our cultural identity. His compositions continue to inspire and preserve the spirit of our nation.
It is our pleasure to invite our classmate Mania Hagopian to perform a selection from Komitas' 7 songs for piano.
We had initially planned to also have a panel discussion, but unfortunately, due to lack of time, we will have to change the format. We will now move to the closing remarks.
Today's event has reminded us that while the scars of history run deep, solidarity, education, and justice can pave the way for healing and prevention.
As we conclude, let us remember that the responsibility to prevent genocide belongs to all of us. Together we can ensure that the tragedies of the past are never forgotten and never repeated.
Thank you for joining us today, and a special thanks to our guests from Uruguay for sharing their knowledge and experience with us.
But in order to sufficiently conclude our event, we would like to invite the principal of the Shirakazi Lyceum for the closing remarks.